more stimulating talk. I'm Terry Answer. This is the Sunday Morning News, and let's talk about optics. With me is Peter Mathews, political science professor from Cypress College and author of the book Dollar Democracy with Liberty and Justice for Some. Welcome to the program, Peter. And
good to be here, Terry.
Optics. President Obama not going to the march 1 week ago today in Paris and standing shoulder to shoulder with all the other world leaders. How bad of a mistake was that?
There were about 40 world leaders there, and many people are criticizing him for not going, but, who knows exactly why he didn't. The leaders of Russia and China and India didn't go either, but still, other leaders were there. If I were him, I probably would have gone.
Yeah, they blamed security concerns, and then they tried to do a little damage control with Secretary of State John Kerry, and he went over to Paris and had a press conference, and he had James Taylor with him, and James Taylor sang this song. Wow.
That's amazing. I can't believe it. It's one of my favorite songs, but for this occasion, I mean...
Now, talk about optics. I'm looking at the video right now, and James Taylor's microphone is too low, and he's crouched over, so he's showing his bald head to the camera, and Kerry and another State Department person are standing off to the side. Now they're trying to fix the microphone while he's singing. I mean, this was so lame. It would be better to do nothing than this.
Probably so. They should have brought in some Hollywood people to direct the whole thing, right?
Yeah, that would have been great. Now, the other thing that they could have done is, send somebody who's, like, good.
Yeah. Higher rank.
I mean, I'm not saying that James Taylor is a bad artist. He's a wonderful artist.
Yes.
But he wasn't really the right guy for the job.
Who would you have picked?
I'll show you who I would have picked. This guy.
Oh, justice will be served and the battle will rage. This big dog will fight when you rattle his cage. And you'll be sorry that you messed with the U.S. of A.
Toby Keith.
Yeah.
'Cause we'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name in.
Oh, yeah, Toby Keith. Toby Keith. And this video is, American troops standing up, shaking their fists, saying, we're with you. We stand with you.
That's quite a switch from James Taylor, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I wouldn't go quite so far as Rush Limbaugh, who said the Kerry incident made him ashamed to be an American. I'm never ashamed to be an American.
Me either.
But come on, Obama, step up your game on that. Now, center stage for the president on Tuesday night. How massive are the tax increases we're looking at?
About $320 billion, and he's hoping to pay for a lot of other programs, including middle-class tax cuts and earned income tax credit for middle-class and working people.
I'm jumping up and down in my seat because you just said the magic two words, middle class.
Right.
Whenever a politician says that, I hang on to my wallet for dear life.
Well, it is true, though, that the income gap is growing quite a bit. There's been growth in the economy, but the growth has gone out to the top mostly, and it is true that middle-class people, kids in college, are having a difficult time paying for the courses. Sometimes the courses aren't available. That's why he's coming up with the other plan, a big one, to give tuition-free education to the first 2 years of community college students for them. And they have to also have a 2.5 grade average to keep it up, a C-plus average, and to have a plan to graduate in 3 years and to get that associate degree and to go on. And you know what else? That really helps students a lot because when you get an associate degree, your income goes up by $10,000 a year. And that's a big bonus. And if you go on to higher education, it goes up even more. But the real question, Terry, is what do we do when these students graduate? Are there going to be jobs for them? And are those jobs going to be in China mostly, manufacturing jobs? We know many of the new jobs created under President Obama have been low-wage jobs. About two-thirds have been low-wage jobs. I would say we have to free up the private sector of entrepreneurs to start new businesses, get support in that regard, deregulate some of those things, cut some of the taxes on small business, create new jobs there, and bring in an educated workforce and fair wages and things like that. So I hope the president is going to balance these things out.
But realistically, he's facing a Congress that is controlled in both houses by the Republicans. So he can jump up and down and say whatever he wants to say, but in reality, at some point, he's got to deal with Congress.
That is absolutely correct. The Republicans have a resounding majority now, And, and they're not, actually the one issue on which they agree with him on is cybersecurity. They'll probably get that passed right away. The community college issue, as much as I would like to see more of this really work for working and middle class students, I don't think it's going to pass Congress right now, although I think it would help a lot because, and I'm a community college instructor, but that's not why I'm saying it. I'm seeing people like Jeff Smith, a former student of mine who was in my class 30 years ago. He became an attorney, went to Georgetown Law School after transferring from community college and going on to university and law school. He actually worked at the SEC investigating the Wall Street crash. This guy is eminent. He's an investment banker attorney. And on the right side, hopefully.
Now that,
but that's a really success story to many of those students.
I echo your point because when I was teaching journalism at USC, some of my best students transferred in. Long Beach has a great journalism program at their community college, Pasadena Community College. Some of my best students were the transfers.
Yes, and actually the transfer students do as well, if not even better, than the students who start at the four-year university. And don't forget, back under the master plan for higher education under Governor Pat Brown, community colleges were free of charge. They were paid for, of course, by the taxpayer, and so were the UCs and CSUs. And I think with a bit of tweaking, making sure the students' responsibility also is put in there, they have to maintain a high GPA, that there should be that kind of help. Because I believe it's a contract, social contract between one generation to the other. And that's to say, the next generation, you get a chance in life like we had before. And for that, we're going to let you go ahead and go to school, go to college, do your best, become the best you can be, your full human potential realized.
But realistically, 20% of the student body at the community college level is the component that we're talking about right now. We've got a lot of folks that are there for remedial study.
That's
in other
true.
words, they didn't learn the math and English in high school that they needed to achieve in the job market, so now they're playing catch-up.
Yes, that's a big problem, and it's also a waste of resources because the K through 12 did not take care of their end of the bargain to start with. We need to fix K through 12 and get the support there so that when the student comes to community college, they can go right through in 2 years efficiently, become good citizens by learning about critical thinking and about democracy, but also technologists, people who can learn how to create the next high technology and create new jobs in this country. And also the nurses. There are nurses from community college. 70% of California nurses are community college graduates. 80% of firefighters and police people are from a community college background. So that's what we need to do. And you're right. The remedial education is really a waste, a loss of time. It's not a waste because now we have to do it, but we got to do this thing better in K through 12 so that way they can go right. They can hit the road running when they come to community college and go forward.
Well, we've got a lot more to talk about. We've got the scramble going on in 2016 for both president and a U.S. Senate seat right here in California. So more with political scientist Peter Mathews when we come back on KFI AM 640. More stimulating talk.
We are gonna come together. We're gonna come together now. We are gonna run together. We're gonna turn it upside down. 'Cause with the
Oh, yeah, turning it upside down in California. Crazy politics and people already talking incessantly about 2016. Peter Mathews is with me. He's a political science professor from Cypress College, author of the book Dollar Democracy with Liberty and Justice for Some. Peter, this Republican meeting in San Diego, they're trying to make themselves relevant again in California. Any chance?
It's going to be an uphill battle because the numbers are so small. But also the other thing was Mitt Romney spoke there. And his future goals were there laid out clearly. And he's taking a different approach to possibly running for president again. He says, we're going to focus on making sure the poor people in America get a chance in life. And we should do that through entrepreneurship. It's very interesting. Before he was focusing on the job creators and how we can increase that, their help.
47%
Yeah, remember
and all
those
that
percentages?
stuff.
But this time he's taking a little bit different message, and he's thinking he may run again for president. But you're saying he should run for what?
Okay. Now, my theory is that the mainstream media, which leans Democratic, is driving this. And the Democrats themselves are driving this. Why? Because they already know how to beat Mitt Romney.
Well, they've done it once.
And he ran before.
Yes, that's true.
So let's just play a little bit of what Mitt Romney had to say.
We can win in 2016 as a party, in the House, in the Senate, and in the White House, if we communicate a clear vision of where we're taking this country, what we believe in. Now, I should tell you that in the last few days, the most frequently asked question I get is, what does Ann think about all this? And she believes that people get better with experience.
He's got a sense of humor about it.
He does. That's for sure.
Heaven knows I have experience running for president. Regardless of what happens in the primaries and the political process that goes on, Ann Romney and I are going to be fighting for our nominee and make sure we win back the White House because the American people deserve it, and we're going to make it happen. Thanks, you guys.
Okay, now, did he say in there anywhere that he's running?
I think he is, though.
I don't think he is.
You don't think he will?
I don't
it's
think
interesting.
He is. But it says, the caption under this is Mitt Romney considers 2016 White House run. That's how the media is
playing it. You're saying they're doing it because they want him to run.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I think Mitt Romney should run for is U.S. Senate from California. In California. He lives in La Jolla. He lives here.
That's true. He's certainly got a nice home over there.
Yeah, he didn't even have to go very far to go to this convention. He just kind of rolled out of bed and showed up. But he's got a lot of money.
Yeah,
and
he does.
Peter, you have written a lot about the role of money in politics.
Yes.
Part of the reason why a lot of good people don't run for office is it takes so much money, especially here in California. You spend all your time selling your soul in fundraising.
And that is a real tragedy because that dollar democracy, as I call it, is ruining our chances, our country, in so many areas, in jobs, in environment, in all kind of technology. Those things aren't progressing because the money in politics is controlling the politicians, both parties, to a large extent, and that they serve their donors more than they serve the regular people. And so you're saying money counts, absolutely. And Mitt Romney has his own money, unlimited, he could spend. So if he runs for Senate, it'll shake a lot of things up. But I do believe Kamala Harris has the inside track there. So, with a Democratic nomination, and probably she'll win. It's hard to say now, but I think she'll probably win the general election as well for the U.S. Senate. Well,
interestingly, the L.A. Times ran the numbers this morning, and they were talking about how it's a real disadvantage to be a Latino from Southern California because people in this part of the state don't turn out to vote as much as they do in the northern part of the state.
That's correct. And, it is true. Go ahead.
And for some reason, it's an advantage to be a woman.
Oh, absolutely. The electorate, especially on the Democratic side, is far higher women. It's 55% women to about 45% men on the Democratic side. But overall, there are more women voters than men voters that actually turn out, especially in primaries. And so that would help a lot for Kamala Harris as a woman to say, look, I'm for working women, I'm for middle-class women, I'm for entrepreneurs, and I've had experience as Attorney General. I've had experience before that. So I think she'll be a very attractive candidate. And who are you thinking might run against her in the primary?
Former L.A. Mayor Antonio
Villaraigosa, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be...
he's saying he really wants to consider the needs of the people. He's really considering the needs of him. He needs a job.
I tell you, I haven't seen a leader switch so quickly from his original values once he got into office, And again, I think he tried to do some good things, maybe accomplished a thing or two, but he seemed to be someone else when he was running for the mayorship. And then when he got in there, it didn't come through the way we thought, especially we progressives, and I consider myself a progressive who's fighting for the little guy, would like him to have done.
Now, his campaign is going to go like this. He's going to announce for U.S. Senate, and then the opposition is going to put up the picture of him partying with, what was it, Charlie Sheen?
Yeah.
So either this campaign is going to be just a smoking disaster, or it's going to be a party.
I'm telling you, it may be both, actually. No, I think Kamala Harris has really the upper hand in this whole thing. But it'd be interesting if Mitt Romney takes your advice and does run for Senate. That should be
are you
really
listening, Mitt? This would... Listen, California voters, a lot of them are very casual voters.
That's true.
They turn out more when there's a sexy presidential election on the ballot. And they vote for people they've heard of.
Yes,
How
name
do you
recognition.
Think Schwarzenegger, the movie star, got to be our governor? People had heard of him.
They had heard of him. They didn't even know what he stood for many times, but they heard of him, and he was the Terminator. He was the leader, and they loved him and voted on personality. That's another problem with our politics, Terry, is we need to really focus more on substance, on ideas and issues. And if we had serious candidates who were not wealthy and couldn't raise the big money but could have access to the media or to be able to have some public funding, they could have a real competitive election with ideas. And that's what I like to see happen here a lot more like we used to in the United States a long time ago.
So back to the original question, Are the Republicans done? I mean, should Mitt just maybe spend his money, wave the flag, fight the good fight, but no chance?
I think if we had a Republican like Mitt, who's more or less a moderate Republican, if we could bring that type of Republican back. On the other hand, you have to have a coalition of both the Tea Party and those Republicans and the moderates coming together to build the base. And the Republican Party will be done unless it can do that. That's the problem right now for them. They've narrowed their focus too much. They've got to reach out to people of color and minorities much more, and immigration policy is going to be key there. The Texas Republicans didn't suffer that kind of problem because they seem to be inclusive a lot more under President Bush in Texas, for example, than the California Republicans. So if they can expand their base, their tent, and bring more people in, appeal to both genders and especially young people.
The big tent, Lee Atwater.
You got to have that. You got to have that.
Yeah, that's what powered Reagan into the White House.
And based on a set of ideas. Bring back those ideas. People want to hear something inspirational, ideas and principles, as opposed to just nuts and bolts. You know what I mean? That's what voters are inspired by, and it's possible that can happen again, but the numbers are very small and bleak for the Republican Party right now in California.
All right, Peter, the big question of the day. Who do you like in the Super Bowl?
I'm with Green Bay, believe it or not. I like the Green Bay Packers. They're a scrappy bunch, and they're actually owned by the city of Green Bay, the citizens. You know that, right?
Yeah, that's nice. And coming up in our next hour, we're going to be talking about why LA does not have an NFL team after all these years and why that's maybe a good thing. But, Peter, I want to thank you for coming on and let folks know that your website is petermathews.com with one T. You can check out his book and all the other good stuff he has to say. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Terry.
All right. Coming up next, Chicks Talking Football. KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk.